Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of It's Always Sunny in Melbourne. This time it's actually sunny in Melbourne, the other kind of sun, sunshiny. Spring is finally getting springy, or sprung a leak, or whatever. It's definitely nicer. It's better than winter. But as I walk around on days like this, I always love looking at the buildings and the architecture, and Melbourne's got some really great buildings, a lot of them really new. But today we're going to talk about that one right there. That is the Eureka Tower, and that's the tallest building in Melbourne. It used to be the tallest residential building in the Southern Hemisphere, but that was overtaken by the Q1 Tower in Queensland. We'll talk about that one in a second. But every building has a story, and the Eureka Tower is no different. Really cool design. It was built to, commemorate or commiserate the Eureka Stockade Rebellion, and that was during the Gold Rush years, similar to how it was in the States. You know, lots of good and bad happened during the Gold Rush, but there was a rebellion and it was quite bloody. There's gold at the top to represent the Gold Rush, and there's a red line on the sides to represent the blood spilt. So that is the tallest building in Melbourne. It's interesting when they measure buildings. They measure them sometimes to the floor, but when we're talking about height, they usually measure them all the way to the tower or the spire. And it's interesting how they do that. We'll talk about one in New York, one of my favorite buildings, the Chrysler Building, that used that technique to actually get taller. But the Eureka Tower is, in fact, 292 meters, 297 to the tippy top. That's almost 1,000 feet. 91 floors, if that helps. Usually I think in terms of floors. And it's all residential, so it's all apartments. So when you think about that, you know, all those people are crammed in there. You really have to get used to that kind of lifestyle. City living is a whole different monster, just logistically and shopping. But it is convenient, it's close to everything. Obviously, the ones on top, we're talking bigger prices. We're talking, 20 million style, loft style, open plan kind of action. But that's on the 81st to I think 88th floor. The floors down below are more normal apartments. But it's funny talking about measuring the height of buildings. You know, that's been around forever. It's probably 65,000 years ago. In some village, Gorg and Zorg are having a fight. Gorg is like, my hut tallest, and the other one puts like a stick on his hut, and he says, now mine is tallest, and they have a fight. But that's been going on for ages. One of my favorites is in New York, the Chrysler Building. I love that building. They actually built the building, and inside they hid a spire, which they were going to put on the top, and they hid that so that the competitors couldn't see that they were going to actually be the tallest building. So as it was being built, that spire or tower was brought in several pieces and assembled inside the building so no one could see it. And then at the last minute, they pushed it through the top, and it became the tallest for a time, because within less than a year, the Empire State Building, another iconic building, was finished, and that one in fact became the tallest building at the time. The Empire State Building, that's 101 floors, 1,454 feet, 443 meters, and look, that's a beautiful building as well, very iconic. But that's how it's always been. There's always been a race to be the tallest building. Then it was the Sears Tower, which is now the Willis Tower in Chicago. Of course, dwarfed by the Petronas Towers in Malaysia. Those ones are interesting. The two towers have the walkway bridge in between, and that's actually pivotal as to how the buildings are connected and move together. If you remove that piece of the building, I think structurally they're not as sound. Nowadays, though, when we're talking tall buildings, all those buildings are in Dubai. The Burj Khalifa building, for example, you would have seen that in Mission Impossible 4, Ghost Protocol, Tom Cruise flying around the top. Look, these buildings are just becoming monstrous. That one is over 800 meters tall, 163 floors, almost 3,000 feet. That's like looking down on the clouds now, kind of thing. But, I don't know if that area is going to be a new giant city or just going to be a wasteland of structures, like you see those termite towers in Africa just sticking out of the sand. So, time will tell, I don't know. But that's currently where probably, if another building is going to top that one, it'll also be in Dubai. It's funny as well with iconic buildings like that, like the Chrysler Building and the Empire State Building. You've seen them your whole life in the movies and TV, but they don't seem real until you see them with your own eyes. It's a very tactile thing. You have to touch it. You have to be there in the city. The sounds, the smells, that's all part of it. That's all part of the building. And it's almost like something Hollywood has made up. Doesn't seem real. But when you see it, again, up close, it just changes your perspective on things. At least that's what I think. But today we'll just focus on the Eureka Tower, which is still a really beautiful building. Really cool architecture. And the tallest building in Melbourne. Now that is dwarfed by the Q1 Tower in Queensland, but not by much. The Q1 Tower is over 1,000 feet and over 300 meters, but it's actually only 78 floors, whereas the Eureka Tower is 91. So again, they measure it by the tippy top, the spire at the top. So it's up to you what you think a tallest building means. If someone sticks an antenna on top of a building, is that the tallest building? Or the highest point you can actually stand on, is that the tallest building? It's up to you. But today we'll look at more about the Eureka Tower. So some fun facts about the Eureka Tower. There's 556 apartments. That's a lot of apartments. Again, you really have to like that kind of life, close quarters. 13 lifts. Going up. 52,000 meters squared of windows. 110,000 tons of concrete. It is interesting when you look at it, the effort that goes to building something like that. And it is a beautiful building architecturally. Now this was built by Fender Katsalidis architects. That's Greek, I've probably said it wrong. And those architects are well known for making a lot of other really beautiful buildings. It's interesting talking about how many floors. So they do this event every year. They do this race to climb the 1,642 steps to the observation deck. I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon. Okay. Okay. Nope. Ain't gonna happen. Oh God. Okay. No way. And of course at the top there's an observation tower. They call it the Sky Deck. That's on the 88th floor. Fantastic views. There's a skywalk. A lot of buildings have those, but this one's pretty cool. You walk out on it and there's like glass below to terrify you to death. But you are going to get the best views if you're ever visiting. Definitely go to the Sky Deck and you can see all the other buildings in Melbourne because you'll be high above them. The 89th floor is a venue, restaurant. They hold events and you can eat. And below that are obviously all the posh penthouse apartments where you're talking millions of dollars. But it is, again, all residential, beautiful tower. And if you're visiting Melbourne, definitely check it out. It's worth a look. And we'll be back for another episode. And if you have any comments or you've been to the tower and have anything to say, by all means, leave a message. And I'll see you next time.